Hey everyone, this is Luke. We are here. This is our December monthly meeting, the last one of 2015, and we are going to be looking at Google Apps for Work and how it integrates with the cloud platform by way of App Engine. And then we're also going to look at using Let's Encrypt on App Engine to secure your site with a custom domain. And we'll go ahead and get started. I did want to point out that our hosts, Novelist and EBSCO, have a few front-end positions that will be opening up and a QA position. So check the careers website on there on ebsco.com, I believe, for those positions to show up at some point here. And without further ado, I will share my screen and we can take a look at this. All right, so tonight we are looking at Google Apps for Work. So let me pull up, I have a slideshow here with real quick information. I was really excited about doing this because I always have all these pet projects that I want to get going, random little app ideas or things like that. And I finally kind of, with the GDG, wanted to start using Google Apps for Work to manage the things that are going on with the group, potentially be able to have like users and things like that can log in to use our infrastructure. We have another person.
Hi.
And I'm Luke.
Eric. Yeah.
Finally get to meet you. All right. And you work for
Willow Tree Apps.
Willow Tree Apps, who just recently moved down to Durham. And if you are an Android developer, you should talk to them.
Android, iOS, or web, actually.
Yeah, okay. All right. So all of the above. I was just giving my spiel about how I kind of was excited about doing this topic because I wanted to start using Google Apps for Work for this group to manage some of the files and things that we've been throwing around in our websites. So I was like, this is the perfect thing to do to end the year and like wrap it up. And so we are on Hangouts on Air, so we are live. If you have any questions, though, we're not we're not that formal that we need to stop and do anything like that.
All right.
Real quickly, the four things that we'll be looking at, and loosely the third one there, but Google Cloud Platform and Google Apps for Work, Google Domains, and then Let's Encrypt. The first three, they're kind of, because they're all Google products, they integrate together very well. I'll say real quickly that you do not need Google Domains to do the stuff we're looking at. And I'll show you with Namecheap is another domain registrar. So you can kind of hop around as long as your registrar allows you to change host records. So that's the one catch. I will share this slideshow. The link here is a referral link. I'll just flat out say that it's worth it to use it because I think if you're interested in paying for Google Apps for Work, I believe you get a discount by using the referral link. If you go through the normal one, you don't get it. So, and of course it does kick me back some amount of money, but I have not actually promoted that in any way. I was like, oh, I should use it just because that way people don't have to pay full price. Let's Encrypt is a new thing that hopefully, like everyone I see, I tell them, like, if you have a project that you're working on that you have a domain for and you've been kind of hesitating to secure it, go do this because it's free and it's security. Like I've run into problems previously with cheap secure certificates where they won't always work in every browser or there's some issues. These will work. I've tried them with everything I could find and they work fine. So Google Domains, if you were starting out and you had a great idea for a project and you went and wanted to buy your domain name, Google Domains is kind of nice because if you're comparing vendors, They do free private registration. Now, what you'll see, and like I'm comparing Namecheap to Google Domains. Namecheap's cost for the domain is cheaper, but the private registration is not free. And so if you look, the end result is that Google's are like a few cents cheaper per year for things like .com, like the mainstream domains. Now, Namecheap, if you want some of the new domains, is cheaper on those, I think. They allow subdomains. They do offer some of the new top-level domains, but like I said, they're probably cheaper elsewhere. I think that may change over time, but one of the benefits you get from using them is your DNS is on Google infrastructure. That could be a benefit or not. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. You do get chat phone and email support during regular business hours too, but that's kind of the spiel for domains. The one thing, if you buy it there, you won't have to go through like a registration process on Google Apps for Work and Google Cloud Platform, which is somewhat nice. Google Apps for Work provides kind of an infrastructure on Google's platform, as it were. So you get things like Gmail, Hangouts, Calendar, Google Plus, Docs, all the Drive stuff, and then you can administer and the Vault is backups, all self-contained inside your own thing. And we'll look at it the way it is for the GDG right now. It's kind of cool because if you have a domain name, you can do naming, and we'll look at this where it's like I can type in drive.gdgtriangle.com and it goes to like a self-contained Google Drive, not the public, not the Google version. So kind of a cool thing. Cloud Platform, I'm not going to go over all this, but it covers the gamut of things you may need from cloud services. We'll specifically be looking at App Engine tonight, and maybe Data Store. We'll see how tricky I end up getting. I didn't really get deep into the weeds on this, but they do have some cool stuff if you go through and look at that. And then there's links at the beginning of the slides. You can go click on those too. But and then Let's Encrypt is free SSL certs, as I said. Now there is a process to go through, and we'll look at that, how it is on App Engine to register. It essentially applies across any hosting platform you would have, I think. Their documentation is good, but it's fairly painless. I was kind of surprised. I was like, wow, that seems really easy. And the way it works is you run this thing, and then you have to go put some type of key out on, like, host it on your web page, and then that's how they verify that you own the page. And we'll look at that. It's kind of a fun little exercise in coding too. So that's it. That's all the slides I want to do. Any questions? Okay. So I wanted to show kind of start with domains and just kind of walk through it. We'll walk through the kind of the things that we had. Except I need to do this one in here. So the Google domains, if you have used a registrar before, this is like far less complex than most of them I've used. It'll list your domains, and then you can transfer, you can search. And it'll give you some type of like recommendation if it can't find the one you want. Fairly typical, pretty low in the like complexity as far as that goes. The management stuff, you get typical management items, so nothing really complex there. So apps for work. Yeah, and then like if you need something simple, that's pretty nice. Like Namecheap, we'll look at Namecheap in a little bit too, but
we'll set a UX for Google domains is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's fairly streamlined and it's quick, and like to me the quickness is what sells me on it. Like I'm starting to like transfer things over there as the cost of the domains is
well organized.
yeah, it's
Like,
roughly
I've tried-
equivalent.
I've used their developer console. I've used their most of the like when you go to other development sites.
Yeah.
They get pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And like you lose interest in one like MSD.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
So apps for work, it is not a free service. So I kind of was like, well, should I say something that's not free? Yeah, it's so I think if you use that discount code, I think it's like $4 and something cents a month to use up to whatever the the limits here.
It's like 25.
And so like if you're if you're starting your own LLC or you're a freelancer, it's gonna be $4 a month. So that's all the all the inbox like mail storage. It's really all you'll probably ever need. You can upgrade for upgrade to the premium tier, I guess, for $10 a month or whatever the discount would be. But it's nice. Like from my perspective, having like started doing this for this group, I was like, this is actually really nice because now if someone else wants to come in and help me organize, I can load them up as a user, and yeah, it's another $4 a month, but that's pretty trivial. So still, or we can even share things via Google. We don't have to create a new user. We can just share things on Drive and things like that. So it's not, I don't know, you can save costs pretty easily. But it allows you to have, so we'll look at, so if we, let's get to this side. So there is an admin console. I'm assuming we can get this to work. Okay. And so it's going to look like you're used to signing into Google and things with the admin console gives you the kind of overarching for this domain, as it were, the management tools to be able to say, all right, what apps do I allow people to have that are users? It changes your profile and things like that, so you can control things like users and groups. I've reached the 1 user limit. Okay, yeah. So users have profiles. Just it mirrors the stuff from Google, but it's really self-contained. So kind of a cool thing to do. You have control over the corporate profile. So I think there are hooks into like Google Pages for your listing on Google Maps and things like that too. Obviously, the group doesn't have an address, so I haven't really tapped into that. You can even do so for those that would be doing this more as like a business. You can tap into reporting that's more like analytics for the apps themselves. Let's see, close that. So you can see usage and see like, are people really using those apps, or for me, it's just me using this, so the reports are going to be pretty stale, but you can see kind of what's going on. For a group like a GDG or a meetup group, the nice thing with this would be that you can kind of see interactions that are going on with your group if you were to be using all internal stuff. But like if all your organizers were part of this, you could see calendar events and things like that too. Similar, if you've used analytics, it's going to look similar to the readouts that you get in that. I don't think I have used. Yeah, so there's a lot of these things I haven't used probably. I can look at logins. How about that? I've done that. So like you can do it. There's at least a little bit of an audit trail too. So in the event that you need those types of management tools, they're there. And then apps, this is where you can allow people to, you can turn on things for specific groups. If you wanted, like, I can't think of a real great case for it, but like if you wanted only certain people to have the calendar, you can go in here and turn it on and off for certain organizations. This, to me, this is like, well, just turn it all on. I'm not paying extra for it, so pretty handy to be able to just have kind of internal stuff. If you have more than one person, obviously for me, internal Hangouts is not really useful because there's nobody else here. But there are also, so there's other things that you can turn on specific to your users. So this would allow a user in your organization to have a private instance of fill in the blank. And so like Google Chrome Sync, they could actually sync their corporate account across Chrome rather than just their personal account. So they can kind of differentiate in that way. Same with all this other stuff. So you kind of get what the end result is. What happens, you see, like if you're on Google Plus, you can see I have like, this is an extra profile, this one's an extra one. So you get access to a few layers of separation. So that, for me, one of the things with this group, one of the biggest selling points of this was now I can detach my personal email and profile from the group so that I'm not doing, what could be sensitive communication for the group just on my own personal account. That way, if someone else comes in to help organize, it's more of a shared structure than, hey, I'm freelancing it myself, even though there might be other people helping me. So that's one of the things. You'll get different profile looks at things like that. So it just separates it out. So then the two things here are what we're going to be focusing on as far as the integration goes with cloud platform. And so like for the GDG, I've bought random domains to fulfill whatever needs. So we had our DevFest last month. And so devfestnc.com is a domain that we bought. It's hosted on cloud. Oh, I changed it, but it's hosted on App Engine. It's kind of what we'll be looking at to show how this all works together. So this is where, gdgtriangle.com, devfestnc.com, all these have been verified. So when you first add a domain, and I wish I was trying to get another one migrated to Google domains, and now it's like in limbo. But when you first add a domain, you can add an alias, which would be like essentially a redirect. So www.gdgtriangle.com can redirect to the bare domain. That's fine. You can add a completely different domain. This is also how you add subdomains. So let's see, did I do one on here? Well, so when you add the www version, that's how you add it. So you start with your like primary domain. So that's the one you register with, and you have to own that domain before you sign up for Google Apps. Or I think they'll offer to let you purchase it if it's available too. But so you purchase the domain, you come in, you sign up for Google Apps for Work. When you come in, this is like you will just have your primary domain that you signed up with, and then you can start adding more. I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think there is a limit to how many domains you can have, but it's fairly large. I think thinking that this is more of to me, a small business type of thing, or, not huge conglomerate. I would think that you're not going to reach the limit if there is one, in fact. So once you start adding things, then you'll see these, there's some notes down here that you need to set things up to point to Google so that things work. So just for the sake of seeing what it looks like, hopefully now everyone can steal my password. So if we look, so the GDG triangle is hosted, or the DNS is registered at Namecheap. So in order to use the Google Apps for Work, you have to kind of put in a few extra records. So the A records are for using the domain itself. And then there's some for mail forwarding. So if you're going to use the Gmail app, you have to tell your DNS registrar to use Google's. These are Google's, and that way Google knows to allow your email address. So the net result is that then if I go inbox, and I will look at this too, but this is my essentially private Gmail is what it ends up being. And so I think there is a way to get like the inbox, and I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't really messed with it. I think there is a way. It may also be that it's not offered yet for me.
It should be. You have to enable it. Though.
Yeah.
There's like some settings.
I haven't really dug into it because
Yeah.
most of this stuff I just handle on my phone. So
We haven't turned on the work, but
yeah. So you can use Gmail or Inbox, I believe, without too much trouble. But as you can see, it's kind of cool because it redirects you, even though, but it knows that you're in that profile. So you can kind of see it's managed by a domain. That's kind of how you differentiate that you're in your Apps for Work account. And so that's for mail handling. And then so these other records, which I thought there were, okay. These other records are for the different apps that you can do subdomains on. And I'm going to forget where. For some reason, I forget where that is, but they ask you at the beginning when you're setting it up. I think maybe it's in here. Can't really remember. I won't dwell on it, but you can see these are the respective subdomains off of gdgtriangle.com where we have Google Apps for Work stuff. So it's kind of nice because then you can give people more of a corporate domain than if you were just running with just Google's stuff. And then the text records, those are verifications for ownership of. So like if you didn't buy it through Google Domains, they request that you put these text records on the record so that they know that you own it. And that those two represent the bare domain and the www domain, subdomain. Okay, so that's kind of the setup. If you're not using Google Domains, you set all that stuff up. I think it's more integrated on the app site if you have Google Domains. Okay, so then, so that we can do some more interesting things. So in this case, App Engine, as you can see in the note here, this used to be contained in Google Apps for Work. They've kind of shifted that away so that you go to the Google Developers Console, which if you're not familiar with that, that's kind of where all your stuff ends up if you're doing cloud anything. And so the Developer Console will list all your projects out. So in this case, I've created 2 projects, and these were simply just to get the domains kind of something up there for them. And we'll kind of look at how to do that as we go here. So for this case, we'll look at we'll look at DevFest, I think, because we have stuff to do on that. So if you continue through, this is an App Engine project. You'll see all the different options here for the other things that you can do as far as projects go. I don't have any compute projects tied to this. So, depending on what you're using for the project, it will show up here. If we do some of these other ones, like there are some really cool things you can do in here. Tonight, we're not going to go over them. If people are interested, I think it'd be fun to kind of go over some of the cool things, especially like Bigtable is cool. There's the what is it? It's the prediction engine, but I don't really know where it sits.
Oh, that was a new one.
Yeah, maybe I may not have it either, but
Do you know?
so yeah, so there's some cool things you can do. The API manager, obviously, if you're using Google APIs, I'll just show this real quickly. This is where you would go to enable those for your project. But for now, we'll just look at App Engine. So we can see, roughly when we were going here, I guess, when we accessed it, this is the access that we got. This chart doesn't mean a whole lot until you start actually having something that's a productive website, I think. But it'll tell you, errors. You can get some good information here about what's going on with your App Engine app. If we look, let's see, 30 days should give us November, right? There we go. So, DevFest NC was on the 7th. So traffic was, there were requests coming in just as people were looking for information and things like that. So kind of a cool way to see. And it'll, like, if you zoom in on that, you can actually see there's some errors that happened and people were requesting pages that didn't exist. But anyway, so that's the dashboard. It gives you an overview. The versions, so each version that you have of an app. So if this is just kind of a fun thing to do. So you saw what DevFest NC was before. I refresh it. I go back to the previous version, which is what we had before I was doing the secure website. So kind of a cool, way to, you can roll out a version and then you can do some cool A/B type testing. There's all sorts of cool things you can do, or just, hey, let's roll over, boom, done, click of a button, which is a lot, that type of release is real nice if you're trying to do things quick. So the other thing I'll point out here is, the versions don't have to be consistent. So version 1 is a Python App Engine app. Version 2 is a Go app. So it doesn't have to be incremental changes. It can be, hey, I want to try this new thing out. Okay, let's try it. No, let's roll back. And you can, no problem. The traffic splitting is where you would do, and I was reading about this to try to figure out, to say something smart about it. You could use it as a beta mode by setting a specific cookie for a user, or you could even just do A/B type testing where you say, all right, 50% will get version 1, 50% will get version 2, or something along those lines. I haven't, it's one of those things where I'm like, that is really cool. I just need something to use it on. And so you can do it by IP address, which, I think if you were doing something where you had that ability, you could do it like that too. But so that's that. And then I haven't really dug into a lot of the complex things like instances, because this app doesn't require like scalability. If you're talking about scalable apps, instances are things that are spread across Google's infrastructure. So It's more like CDN types of things where you're going to get proximity, like geographically close requests will be sent to different instances. And then you can do like these are just things I haven't, none of this has been implemented because we don't have it for the GDG site. But like quotas, this is something where the other reason to me I was excited about using this is this group will probably never reach the quotas that are free. So it's like it's something where instead of like having to do DNS through one company and pay a fee that way and then pay, whatever other, all over the place, if we do Google domains and then Google Apps for Work, for the most part, it's going to be whatever the cost is for the domain and the apps for work. So it's fairly straightforward. If you start using APIs, the quotas for those are, they're different. And so I would recommend if you're going to use some of the APIs, make sure you check the quotas on those. So things like maps have limits. I think like geocoding is like 1,000 a day, which like if you're not careful, you'll hit that pretty quick. Especially like I know like Code for America, they were geocoding restaurant addresses and they just did it in batches, like daily batches of 1,000. So they would, it would take a few days to hit all the restaurants, but then they're done. Yeah, so that's App Engine. Okay, so the integration point is then when you link App Engine and your domain. Let's go to settings here. And so this is where we're kind of finally focusing in on. This is where you have your custom domain. You've registered it and proved that you owned it to Google. So if you go to add it, it should show up in your drop-down list here. So like dfnc.us is one that we also have. If you haven't verified it, that you can also start that process here. The verification is really that text entry. If you aren't hosted with Google, I think if you host it with Google, it will show up in here. And then the final bit is, so I'm never real clear if I should show the certificate. Like I'm pretty sure I shouldn't, but I'm like, is it really going to matter? So in this case, what you end up with is after we go through the Let's Encrypt process, you'll grab the full chain cert, and that will be the public key, and then you'll grab the private key and put it in here, and then you click OK and you're done, and your site is now enabled SSL. And I'm like, it's like, oh wow, it's so easy. And so to do that, just for the sake of argument, let's see here. I guess it's not gonna hurt anything to run through it, I guess. But so if you're on it, make sure when you do this that you're on the project that you want to secure, because the idea would be that if you're going to host, like if you're on a different project and it's going to host a completely different website, you may get mismatches and the certificate may not work properly. I don't know that that's the case, but I would think, your App Engine app should be the one, like you're running it from the thing that you're going to secure. So to me, it just makes sense. So this developer console is pretty new as far as the layout and stuff. I think within the last year, maybe, I think they did this. But so they have this Cloud Shell. And so it's essentially shell access on the system. You have, a limited subset of commands that you can do and things like that. But fortunately, you have enough commands that you can go grab the Let's Encrypt repo, and then from GitHub, and then you can run the Let's Encrypt executable binary to then go set this up. And so like I was just really so excited about this. I have so many pet projects where I was like, I can't really do any of these because it doesn't make sense not to secure it. Like, and I've done a few things in the past where it's like, well, people don't care. It's not going to be there. I'm not going to store their information. We'll just do it kind of willy-nilly. But being able to do a secure certificate like kind of at will is huge to me. Like this, I'm just so excited about this. And I'll just run through. So the commands have been repeated over and over again, obviously. It took me a while to figure out. So let's see. There it is. So the first thing you do is you clone the repository. And I'm just going to run through this because it doesn't matter at this point. But we'll just let's see. I think I have to do sudo on this. So you do have, if you do sudo, you don't actually have to type in a password. It's kind of assuming you've authenticated and you have root access already. I'm trying to make sure I don't. Okay, I think that'll be okay. The certificates are in a different directory. Okay, so if you clone the repo, it will go grab it. Simple command, git command, and then you change into the directory. And then if you look at I have this in the slides because it's like fairly straightforward to do. So there's a few different commands that you can do. And let's encrypt. Let's see. So they have a help printout that you can get some of the things from. But like if you're using Apache, it's fairly easy. It's nothing like, going through the rigmarole of like verifying and all that. So once you run that, and we'll just go through the process and we'll fail it just so you can see what it's doing, but rather than going through and creating new certificates. So it'll go. The nice thing is, so once you have the repo down, once you run it, I think it'll say at somewhere at the bottom, I think, where if you want to run an upgrade, there's commands to do that rather than going and grabbing the repo and doing a pull and merge. It sets up a virtual environment so that it can run everything self-contained, which is nice, obviously, in this environment. And as far as I could tell, I didn't incur any processing hits on my quotas by doing this. Like at least not significant enough to where I got charged. And so what you'll see is it does, very chopped down GUI like you'd see in a Linux install or something. And the one thing that you have to do is, as part of the verification process, they will give you 2 consecutive. Essentially, you're supposed to host a website at the domain, and you're supposed to specifically call out a path that they will give you to host a text string of some kind. And so to do that, I've seen examples done with Java. Though the example the code I used was written in Go. And this would be the code. I'll just put that into an editor so we can see it. We'll just save it on the desktop here. Okay. So you'll have to set up a handler in this case to handle. So all of the verifications will be at something under this like subfolder hosted, and then they probably have mismatched quotes because I copied and pasted. There we go. And you don't really need the root, but so in this case, what they'll give you, if we go back, it's probably about ready. Maybe they'll give you a string that will be the route under the Acme challenge, and then there'll be the text that you have to present to them. And there's two of them, and you take note of them, put them in your code, and then you deploy your app. And then you hit enter, and then it will go verify that those return, and then it'll say, all right, we've created your certificate. We're all done. And this does take, like this part took a while last time too. It does not take as long once you've done it, run it on here once. So if you're and you can secure multiple domains with this. I don't know how, I didn't really look at what the limits were. Like I don't think you can do wildcards. But for our purposes, we did www and the bare domain we did it once for the GDG website and then once for the DevFest site. So it didn't have any problem with that. Nope. And this is probably because I deleted stuff, but. Well, did I do the? I might have done the wrong one. Let me see. So this was the guy. This guy had done it to start with. No, I think that's the one. Okay. About home manual start only. Yeah. It's gonna be really bad if I do this and it did not work. It may be because I've already done it for this too. Let's see. Acme. Distribution. Okay. Well, let's see if we can switch to this one. So this one was working before, so I think we should be able to run through the process at least. But that is the process. So you launch it. It asks you to verify it. You verify it, using whatever code you need to use. And the key thing is, so like in our stuff, let's see. Well, I'll just open this folder. So the big thing is in your App Engine YAML file, don't set secure always until after you do this. Like I made that mistake right off the bat because I was like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm gonna have secure. So I put secure, and then it was redirecting, and it'll still work to browse it, but I don't think the verification was working because it was getting redirected, but the certificate was not there. So it was like whatever method they were using was not working. So in this case, I comment that out. You can also, I'm trying to remember if I did. Well, so then, once you have that route in, this is what it kind of looks like. You'll get some string, and this is just for Let's Encrypt. It's not. You can remove it once you have your certificate. let's see. Okay. First one. Right. Okay, so we'll see. Let's see if this works.
It's just like it's so much easier, very cleverly, but I've never heard of it. I didn't hear of Let's Encrypt. It's the first time I've heard of Let's Encrypt.
Oh, and then it. Wow. Okay. Well,
I'm not,
I guess
not looking at security this time. I'm looking at the development.
Yeah,
But
and the thing is,
no.
like, this is what I would say for anyone listening to this. Also, the way things are now, Google prefers, like, as far as like search engine optimization and things like that, Google will prefer a secure site over a not secured one. And so, like, with the ability to do a Let's Encrypt free certificate, it makes sense to do it because it's for, it doesn't cost anything other than a little bit of time. I think these will last for 90 days and then you have to renew it, but that's a whole lot better than, you know, thousands of dollars for 1 year for, you know, a verified vendor that sells certs. Well, I feel a little like the wind got taken out of my sails. I'm not sure. Maybe I have to do, let's see. Here's where we can use the, oops. Huh. They may have changed something in the last like month that prevents this from being used or something.
What is it here? Can't read
It says could not, oh, yes. That doesn't help either. Here, maybe. There we go.
Okay.
So it's trying to run Let's Encrypt Apache, it seems like, but it could be too that the command line flags are different. I did this 2 weeks ago, I guess, at this point. So like something has changed, and that's where Let's Encrypt is in beta, and so I'll leave it at that. But that's the process is what I've shown you. It's, you know, fairly straightforward as far as like the first thing it'll ask you to put in email address that they can send things to, and then comma or space separated list of domains you want to secure, and then it'll tell you like it'll give you the here's the address that we want you to put this text at. You hit enter after you grabbed it, then it'll give you another one. Here's the address we want you to put this other text at. You put that in, make sure it's hosted, click enter or press enter again, and then it will go verify. If you fail the verification, there's no harm done. You can just run it again. But it does look like I'll have to investigate and see why this isn't working. I would assume that it's something from the Let's Encrypt side, but it could. Google may have done something to change the environment also. But it looks like it's trying to run Let's Encrypt Apache, which should not be right. Anyway, so then once you go back to your YAML file and turn on secure, which we've done for the GDG Triangle site, it will redirect automatically to an HTTPS page. And, you know, if you look at the certificate, oh, that's the wrong one. If you look at the certificate, you'll see it's verified by or issued by Let's Encrypt, and it works. You know, the one thing I did figure out is you have to use the full chain or Firefox will choke on it.
Oh, really?
Which I didn't quite understand that, but differences in browsers. I don't think any browser cares if you use the full chain, so it doesn't. I'm not really a security expert. I just know that I need it. So that's kind of the process, and then, you know, you can do with App Engine, you can do any of the code bases, PHP, Go, Java, and Python. You can kind of do the same thing with any of them as long as it matches the specific The one thing, I don't know if it was blatantly obvious, but where did that go? So in this, if you look, oh no, oh, I didn't say that. The most important thing is to make sure that you're serving it as plain text. If you don't put that in it, for Go at least, if you don't put that in, it will serve it as HTML and it will not verify with that because the verification is looking for a text string of text, and your browser your site would send back HTML snippets. Small thing, but that catches people, I think. Other than that, I mean, that's kind of, I didn't really have a ton to share about that, but any other questions from you guys? Or I guess I could look at the live stream and make sure nobody is asking questions here. All right, Q&A. Anyone who's on the live stream, I don't think, I may not have enabled the questions to start with, but if you do have questions, feel free to post them on the Google Plus event or in the YouTube channel for this. And I guess on that note, we'll kind of call it a night, nice and quick. If you have any questions about any of the topics, feel free to ask, and if I don't know the answer, I can pass them on to people who might. All right, thank you.